Akshay Sahaya, next speaker from the Rashtriya Vidyalaya College of Engineering, is speaking against the motion. He can respond to Sachin, Fayaz, and speaking for the motion, and he can respond to all the speakers on this side.
Kudos to ma'am for writing that book, but I have a simple question for Mr. Sachin Pilot. Why should the cost of speaking up being to lose your source of livelihood, right? Today, young people who are joining the ranks of the bureaucracy look at the system and are scared to death looking at the way people like Khemka and Durga Shakti Nagpal are treated. And they basically have to face this choice that do I go into suspension and say spend 30 days sitting at my home, or on the other hand just subvert to the system. The cost of speaking up should not be that high, and it's your fault that it is that high, right? But moving on to the second point, right? You spoke about like how in the last decades we've had so many glorious moments. And I have a problem with this count your blessings approach that the political class has, right? Where the standard they apply to themselves is that this is what we have done as compared to the fact that we could have done nothing for you, when the standard should actually be this is what we've done compared to what we could have done for you, right? We never gauge ourselves to the lost opportunities. Yes, we've had lots of glory moments, but we've also had like a larger share of like embarrassments in terms of the way the political class has failed to deliver to the opportunities. Responding to Fawaz, you spoke about the fact that the youth is heterogeneous, and I agree with you. But the fact also is that the political class has failed a heterogeneous youth homogeneously, right? Because look at every sector of the youth, and they equally failed by the political class. You spoke about the Niyamgiri tribals. I'm going to speak about them too, right? Look at this huge Maoist and Naxal movement across the country. It wasn't export, like, they didn't land from moon either. The reason they had to resort to weapons is because when an urban middle class youth doesn't find jobs in India, he takes the route of the H1B, and in the rural areas when a tribal is disenfranchised, he has to resort to the AK-47, and that's the way it has been played out to them, right? When the government, when the political class disenfranchises them in the pursuit of serving their own narrow interests, right? We've seen like rampant collusion of the political class with the mining barons in these areas, and they've disenfranchised the youth because disenfranchising the rural youth works for them because the youth is idealistic and pegs them to a higher level of expectation. So you disenfranchise them, remove them, eliminate them from the system, and then you insulate yourself from any kind of backlash from these classes, right? And this forces them to take up guns, which is problematic. Furthermore, he comes out and asks us a question about like the youth and the society is to blame as well. My counter question to you is this. Where has the idealism gone from politics, right? Legislation was supposed to be a driving factor of societal change. Back in Jawaharlal Nehru's era, we had like the political establishment pass the anti-dowry law despite popular resistance. And from there, we've gone to a stage where in Rajiv Gandhi's era, we had the Shah Bano case where the parliament, to appease like certain sections of the society, went and reversed a positive Supreme Court judgment, something that we've seen all over again right now in the past few days with this ordinance, right, against the criminalization of politics, which was almost like accidental that it was mitigated, but that shouldn't be the way the politics works. And with that, I'd like to rest my speech.
Well, thank you very much, Akshay Sahai. Let's move quickly. And speaking against the motion, our next speaker from the Shiromani Akali Dal, member of the opposition in Parliament in the Lok Sabha, Harsimrat Kaur Badal. The floor is yours to respond.
Thank you. Listening to this debate of get hold of the politicians and make them the whipping boys, they're the cause of all evils that's happening in the country. I mean, this seems to have become a favorite topic. And I think the root cause starts from, if you look at the quality of education we are giving our kids in school, when they're introduced to civics and to democracy, the first book that they pick up and they learn how the politicians are a bad lot. They lie to the people for a vote, and then yes, I have a daughter who starts school in class 9, and I read their books. And I read the class 10 ones, and I read the 11 and the 12. These are the NCERT books, which are teaching the youth of today. I think all these kids should recall, if they recall their school books, as what a bad lot the politicians are. They do nothing good. They tell lies to the public, take the vote, forget about them. Then we have the media, which is just showcasing all the bad stuff the politicians are doing. We have the newspapers, where all you read is all the rot that is going on in the political system. And what are we doing to the democracy? Today, the result is that the entire nation of this 65% youth is disillusioned by the political system, disillusioned by politics, wants to have nothing to do with it, and blame them. Now, like rightly everybody says, that the political class is a mirror of society. Who chooses this political class and sends them there? Today, 2/3 of our country lives in the 6.5 lakh rural villages. 70% of those are below poverty line are also youth. Today, this political class has to address the aspirations which differ not just from state to state, but maybe 50 kilometers down from one district to another district. I ask you that in a family, let's be practical. In a family with one breadwinner, does he manage to meet the aspirations of the 7 members or the 5 members of his family? There's always kids complaining they're not getting, the wife complaining she's not getting, the husband not being able to make. Here's one political MP who's supposed to meet the aspirations of 9 districts, and here one political government that's supposed to meet the entire state. Yes, there's a lot of good that is happening, but who talks about it? Does anybody even ask me that what else I'm doing besides being an MP to help society, which is not my job? I come from a well-to-do family. I can live a life of leisure like everybody else. My colleague Sachin is what an educated can have a white-collar job. We give up our air-conditioned comfort and go down to those villages to make a difference over there. Does anyone talk about that? It's absolutely easy to be the whipping boys and to generalize everybody is bad. All lawyers are bad, all doctors are bad, all teachers. Is that possible that all politicians are bad? But who talks about the one good thing that any politician is doing? Look where the country has, yes, we have failed on many counts, but do not generalize. Let me talk about my state. We talk about education. We were 14th when we took over 7 years ago. Today we are 3rd, only 2nd to Lakshadweep and Puducherry. We didn't just make it happen overnight. We worked, recruited 71,000 teachers, put up 9 universities, 18 colleges when there were only 3 before us. And today we are 3rd in the country. Why? Because we worked at it. We talk about today, what do youth want? They want good education. They want skills which can make them employable. They want jobs. 65% of the youth under 35, they need to feed their families. They need to be able to earn. If we talk about education, I've given you the statistics broadly. If I talk about skill, let's take a small thing. We decided that there were 10 million youths, people who needed security guards, every hotel, every hospital, even people at home. We set up under Punjab Policing a training center where every 3 months, thousands of youth from the rural areas are there given police training by the police for security guards. And millions of them are churned out, and today big companies like Group 4 and all come and book the whole batch. These are rural people who are even going to Dubai and to Saudi Arab just for security guards. There's mechanical training, motor training, so we provide. Yes, we may not have given jobs to everybody. Everybody aspires to get a government job. It's not possible. But the governments are making, and the governments who are making a difference are coming back into power and beating the incumbency, which may not be the routine. Like my state was from a revolving government. Always the other government came. But they came back. Why? Because we performed. So please do not generalize. And the onus lies on the youth to filter out the good and from the bad governments, to filter out the good from the bad politicians. If you just sit on voting day and say, oh, let's go see a movie, who's going to stand in that heat and vote, then don't complain of the lot that you're dumped with and the governments that you get. The onus is on you. You choose the people and send them. Don't leave it to that poor man who for a bottle of liquor or a few hundred rupee notes. And let's talk facts here. Yes, there are people who will not vote unless they're given money. Yes, there are a lot of people who will, because it's for them, it's a daily wage, which is much more than what they earn in a month. And there are lots of people who will not vote unless they get that bottle of liquor. So when the decision is left on that, and people, educated people like you, do not make the effort to go make that change, then please do not complain.
Harsimrat Kaur Bathur. Who gives that bottle of liquor?
Who demands it, Adha?
Who pays the money to vote?
Who demands it?
I won't enter into argument. I'm only
No, let's be honest here. I don't want to give it, but what do I do if the fellow says I want to vote for you, but I'll vote the other side?
These are only some
I'm not saying I do it. Please get that clear before tomorrow someone says I'm doing it.
These are only
but
some
who's
issues.
demanding? I'm saying the onus is on the public. The onus is on the youth. Let the youth get up and so we will not accept the money. We will not accept the booze. We're going to vote for the person who we think is right. Why does the public not do that?
So that's. These are some of the issues which Fayaz and Harsimrat today seem to be making a point that the problem is with society. However compelling it is, or interesting or intriguing it is to get into the debate, I will avoid the temptation and leave that for another day. Our next speaker is Dr. Yogendra Singh Yadav of the Aam Aadmi Party, who despite being a politician believes that the motion is correct. Dr. Yadav.
Let me begin by saying that my friends on the other side have actually made some very fair and reasonable points. And it's only fair to take that on right now. And I must salute both my politician friends here. From the political establishment in the narrow and proper sense of the term, I'm an outsider. They say, and it's absolutely right to say, that politicians make for very easy targets. It is very easy to blame someone who happens to be sitting at the top for everything that's wrong with the system. Therefore, we have to be nuanced, we have to be specific, we need to understand. At the same time, I would say, it is also very easy for a doctor or an engineer or a politician to make it a question of professional grievance. What do I do? I'm working so hard. We are not talking here about the problems, the individual personal disorders of a bunch of people. That's not the point. We are speaking about a systemic disorder here. And the systemic disorder resides in the manner in which our democracy is practiced, in the manner in which it throws up a class, systematically, a class which suffers from, allow me to say, multiple organ disorder, multiple organ failure of a kind, systematically. The problem is not with individuals necessarily. It is right to say that our democracy has great achievements. Of course it does. The question is it because of the political class or despite the political class? Is it because of what the erstwhile political class during our freedom struggle did? Or is it because of the present political class and what it does? It is correct to say that politicians come from the society. And yes, the society has to take a blame. It's like literature, which mirrors society. The trouble is, which part of the society do they mirror, like literature? Do you represent and mirror the scum of the earth? Or do you represent or mirror the finest that exists in society? Is it that people get to choose whichever political class they want? Or is it that the lanes that lead to the selection of political class have been captured by some organizations, allow me to say by some families? Yes, those coming from families do get elected. Yes, they have to work hard to get elected. I don't want to make a cheap point here. But the point is that the entry barriers are simply so high for those who do not come from dynasties. Yes, the people choose, but do they choose under free conditions? Do they get a complete open menu to choose from? Those are the questions we need to ask. My friend Fayaz spoke beautifully. Fayaz, you could have been speaking for me. The only question I want to ask you is that Chotu in the Dhaba, the Adivasi in Niyamgiri, Sharmila Irom, has the political class done justice to them? For me, if there is an ultimate indictment of this political class, and let me clarify what do I mean by this political class. My friend talked about existing political class. This is the political establishment of the country, and if you want to operationalize it, these are political parties which have been either ruling at the state or the center in the last 2 decades. That gets you about 40 political parties who have captured political power in this country. And if there's one indictment of this political class, Fayaz, it's your words. Sharmila Irom is the ultimate indictment of this political class. That Muslim youth who wants to live a dignified life in his own country where his forefathers were born, and every moment he has to think twice before getting a house, before taking a small place in Delhi, who always worries before he goes to a police station which is meant to protect him. That, to me, is an ultimate indictment of political class. The problem is not, and that's the final point I wish to make, let's not get into a simplified assessment of politicians don't having character. I mean, let's talk more serious things. The problem is not loss of character or ethics alone. That, of course, is the case. The real problem is also that the political class, the existing political class of today, has lost political judgment, it has lost political skills, and it has lost political nerves. Thank you.
Yogendra Yadav.